Hello everyone, this is Mohammad Imtiaz Alam, and in today's video we're going to talk about passive voice or passive structures. In my earlier videos, I have told about active structures and active voice, but in today's video we're going to dig deep about passive voice. Okay, and basically before starting the discussions about passive structures, I have to tell you about the main difference between active structures and passive structures. Because students really got confused about how you're going to build these passive structures and basically how you're going to differentiate between active structures and passive structures. So we are straight away going to the main point. Now, you can see I have written a sentence and that is I play football. So you can see I is the subject. I'm underlining the subject and play is the verb. I'm coloring it as red. So in this sentence, that subject I is doing the action or doing the verb. So basically it means that in your active structures, all types of subject, they will do their actions by themselves. Okay, whether it is about, you know, persons or things. If that subject is doing all sorts of things, all sorts of actions and verbs by himself or herself and itself, then that subject will be called as active structures. So basically, this is an active structures, and I is the subject of that active structures. But if I write football plays, so now is this sentence correct? No, definitely not. This sentence is not correct because you can see this subject football cannot do this action. Football cannot play by itself. It has to be played by someone. Okay. I'm repeating again, this is not the correct sentence because that subject football cannot do the action or cannot do the verb. It has to be done by someone. So this is wrong sentence. But if I write now, this is the correct sentence. Football is played by me. You can see in this sentence that subject is being played by someone. So that's why this is the correct sentence and this is the passive structure. So why this is the passive structures? Because you can see that subject cannot do the action by itself. Rather, this sentence, this subject, the verb is being, acted by others. Okay, as the subject cannot do the verb, so that's why the other someone is doing that verb for that subject. So basically, this is the passive structures. And you can see football is the subject of that passive structures and is played is the verb of that passive structures. I'm coloring it as red. So the main difference between active structures and the passive structures is in active voice, you will see all sorts of subject, they will do their actions or they will do their verbs by himself or herself or herself. But in passive structures, the subject will be unable to do the action, rather someone will do that verb. Okay. Now we will discuss more and more about passive structures. So we are starting with the present tense. Okay, present tense. And we have four categories in present tense, and that is present indefinite, present continuous, present perfect continuous. So we will start with present indefinite. So now you can see this is present indefinite, and this is the active structure. Why this is the active structures? Because you can see the subject he. This subject can do the verb by himself, and that's why this is the active structure. And now, how we are going to convert that active structures into passive structures? To do that, you have to first take this object as subject. So this object will come as subject in the passive structures. This pen, now you have to change that verb into past participle. Okay, now this is present tense in present form, but you have to change that present form into past participle form. And to do that, you have to take am, is, are as an auxiliary. Okay, because this is the passive structure, and that's why to make that verb as past participle, you have to take the help of an auxiliary, and it can be am, is, or are. Okay. So this pen is, now I will convert that present form into past participle. This pen is wanted by him. So this is the passive structure of present indefinite. Okay. You can see this pen is basically the subject of that passive structure. Him is the object of that passive structures, and is wanted is the verb form. Now, many people think that this preposition by, okay, many people think that you can use by in every sentence, but that is wrong concept. You have to put the preposition according to the meaning and according to the subject. Basically, you can call it as appropriate prepositions. You can use by or with or at or to, but every time you have to use this, you have to use according to the meaning and according to the sentence or the demand of that sentence. Okay. So this is not correct to put by in every types of sentence. You have to put prepositions according to the meaning or according to the grammatical state. Okay. So now we will go to the present continuous. He is playing football. Now this is present continuous, and also this is an active structure. How there's active structure? Because that subject is doing the verb by himself. And how you gonna change and how you gonna convert that active structures into passive structure? To do that, again, you have to take that object as subject. So I'm putting that object as subject, football. And again, you have to put the auxiliary is. Now, to change that present continuous into passive, you have to add another word, and that is being. Okay. Whenever you will change present continuous into passive structures, so whenever you have to do that passive structures in present continuous, then you have to add this word being. So football is being played by him. So this is the passive structure of present continuous tense. You can see football is being played by him. Football is the subject of that passive structures. Him is the object of that passive structure. And is being played is the verb form, is the verb of this passive structure. I'm coloring this as red. Okay. So that's how you're going to change the active structures into passive structures when you will face present continuous. Okay. Now we are going to the present perfect. So I have written a sentence, and that is, he has done this homework. Okay. So basically this is the active structure. And why this is the active structures? Again, you can see the subject he is doing the subject by himself, and that's why this is the active structures. And this is also perfect tense, present perfect tense. And why this is a present perfect tense? Because you can see the auxiliary has, and also you can see the past participle form of do. So basically, when you will see the auxiliary form has or have, and whenever you will see the past participle form of any verb, okay, any past participle form of the verb, then that sentence will be called as present perfect. And now you will change that active structures into passive structures. How are you going to change these active structures into passive structures when you will face present perfect tense? The really same. Again, you have to take this object as subject. Basically, this is the object, this homework. I'm underlining that. So you have to take that object as subject, this homework. Now you have to take the verb, the auxiliary verb as, and now to change, to convert into a passive structure, you have to add word, and that is been. Okay. Whenever you will build or you will construct any passive structures in perfect, then you have to take this word been. Okay. You have to add this word been. And again, you have to change that verb into past participle form. Basically, done is itself in past participle form. So that verb will be unchanged. Has been done, the preposition by, and you have to convert that subject as object. Okay. So this is the passive structures of present perfect. I'm repeating again. Whenever you will do the passive voice of present perfect, then first of all, you have to take the object as subject. Then you have to take the auxiliary have or has. And then because you are doing passive in present perfect, you have to add this word been. And again, you have to change that verb into past participle form. So you can see the past participle form done, and you have to put prepositions as I have told earlier. Okay, this is not mandatory to put by in every sentence. You have to put your preposition according to the meaning and according to the grammatical needs. Okay, and then finally you have to change the subject as object. So this homework has been done by him. So this is the passive structures of present perfect tense. Now we will go to perfect continuous. Okay, so now you will see the active and passive structures of present perfect continuous. I'm writing a sentence. You can see I have written a sentence, and that is she had been doing that work. Okay, so this is basically okay, I have to change had as has. Now, this is the present perfect continuous. You can see I've written a present perfect continuous tense, and that is she has been doing that work. You can see this is the subject. And why this is the active structure? Because you can see the subject is doing the work by herself. Okay. Has been doing is the verb form, is the verb basically, and that work is the object. I think again we have to change that as this. So you can see she is the subject, this work is the object, and has been doing basically the verb forms. Okay. So how you gonna change these active structures as passive structures? How are you gonna change that? Again, the same drill, you have to take the object as subject. So I'm taking the object as subject. And again, you have to take the auxiliary form has. You have to take the auxiliary form has. And you have to add been. And now, because you are changing from active to passive in present perfect continuous tense, you have to add another extra word, and that is being. Okay, so whenever you will build the passive structures of present perfect continuous tense, you have to take another word, and that is being. And again you have to take, again you have to convert that verb form into past participle form. Okay, so doing is the verb form, and now you have to change that form as past participle. So basically the verb will be converted as past participle, and it will look like this: done. Then you have to put a preposition, and that is by. And finally, you have to change that subject as object. So I'm repeating again. Whenever you will do passive structures in present perfect continuous tense, first of all, you have to take object as subject. You can see I'm underlining the subject. Then you have to put auxiliary has, and then you have to again add been. And because this is a present perfect continuous tense, and you are building past passive structures of this, and that's why you have to also add being. Okay. And finally, you have to change the verb as past participle. You can see I have written that word, that verb done. And finally, you have to add preposition, and then at last you have to change that subject as object form. So the passive structure of this present perfect continuous tense is this work has been being done by her. Okay. So basically this is the passive structures of present perfect continuous tense. So this is all about the present tense and their formations of active and passive structures. Now we will go to past tense. And again, we will start with indefinite. Again, I'm writing he played football. So you know the drill. First of all, you have to take the object as subject. So football is coming as subject. Then you have to put was or were, because this is past tense. So you have to add the auxiliary was or were according to the subject. Okay. So football was. Now you have to change the verb form as past participle. So basically played itself a past participle also. So it will remain as same. So football was played, then you have to add the preposition by, and finally you have to change that subject as object. Okay. So this is the passive structure of past indefinite. The active structure is he played football. Why this is the active structure? Because the subject is doing the verb by himself. So this is the subject of an active structure. He played football, and the passive form of this past indefinite tense is football was played by him. Okay. So this is the indefinite form. Now we will go to the continuous form. So I have written a sentence. You can see Ronnie was doing that work. And now how are you going to change this active structure into passive structure? To do that, you have to take this object as subject. Okay, so I'm taking that object as subject. That work. Now you have to add the auxiliary was because it's the past tense. Okay, you have to add was or were according to your subject. That work was. Now because this is continuous, this because this is continuous and you are building passive structure, so you have to add being. Whenever you will do continuous types of things and whenever you will change and whenever you will build the passive structures, then you have to add being. The work was being, and now you have to change that verb. I'm coloring it as red, so again you have to change that verb as past person, so it will be converted as done. That work was being done. You have to put a preposition, and then finally the subject will come as object, because you cannot change the noun form. You cannot change the noun form. There are no subject or objective form of a noun. Ronnie will remain as Ronnie, but it will be in the objective position. So the answer will be that work was being done by Ronnie. Okay. So the active structure is Ronnie was doing that work. Why this is the active structure? Because you can see the subject is doing the work by himself. So was doing is basically the verb. Ronnie is the subject. I'm underlining the subject, and that work is basically the object. And the passive form of this past continuous tense is that work was being done by Ronnie. So now we are going to the past perfect. So I have written a sentence, and that is he had done his duty. You can see this is basically the active structure because the subject is doing the verb by himself. I'm underlining the subject. And you can see the auxiliary had is there, and also the past participle form of that verb do is there. So basically that's why this is the past perfect tense. He had done his duty, and his duty is the objective form. So now to make passive structure of this past perfect, you have to take the object as subject. So his duty will be converted as subject. His duty, again, you have to add the auxiliary had. And because this is the passive form, so you have to also add been. And the verb will be converted as past participle. So done is itself a past participle. So you can take that as the same. So his duty had been done. The preposition by will be added, and finally the subject will be converted as object. Okay? So the answer is his duty had been done by him. Okay. So the this is his duty is basically the subject of this passive structure. Him is the object of this passive structure, and this is basically the verb of your passive structure. So to make passive structure in past perfect tense, first of all, you have to take the object as subject, then you have to add had, the auxiliary, and then you have to also add been, because basically you are doing passive structures in past perfect tense. And finally, you have to change the verb as past participle, and the rest of the thing will remain as same. You have to put the prepositions, and at last you have to change that subject as object. Now, Now we will talk about past perfect continuous tense, their active and passive structures. So I've written a sentence, and that is she had been eating rice. Okay, she had been eating rice. So this is the active structure. Why? Because that girl is doing the verb by herself. So this is the active structure. She is the subject of this past perfect continuous tense, and rice is the object of this past perfect continuous tense. And why this is the past perfect continuous tense? You can see the auxiliary had is there. You are also seeing that the word been is there and also the ing form is there. So this is the past perfect continuous tense. She had been eating rice. Now, how are you going to change or how are you going to build the passive structure of this past perfect continuous tense? The drill is same here. You have to take the object as subject, rice. You have to put the auxiliary had. Then again, you have to put the word been. Now, because you are building the passive structure of a continuous past perfect continuous, so you have to add the word being also. And finally, you have to change the verb as past participle. So this verb eating will be changed as eaten. Eat, ate, eaten. Eat is basically the present form, ate is the past form, and eaten is the past participle form. Okay. So rice had been being eaten by, you have to put a preposition, and finally you have to change the subject as object. So this is the passive form of past perfect continuous tense. Rice is the subject of this passive structure. Her is the object of this passive structure, and had been being eaten are the verb forms of this passive structure. Okay. So I'm repeating again, to build the passive structure of past perfect continuous tense, you have to take the object as subject, then you have to add had. Again, you have to add the word been because this is continuous, and that's why you have to add the word being also. Finally, you have to change the verb as past participle, and then you have to add the prepositions. And finally, you have to change the subject as object. That's how you're going to change, and that's how you're going to build the passive structures of present past perfect continuous tense. Okay. So this is past perfect continuous tense and their active and passive structures. So this is all about the present tense and past tense and their four categories. Okay. Now we will go to the last category, last segment, and that is future. And we will start with independent. Future indefinite. He will do the work is future indefinite. And how you're gonna change the active as passive? You have to take the object, the work, you have to add will. You also have to add be, and then you have to change the verb as past participle. Then you have to put preposition, and finally you have to change the subject as object. So the passive form will be he will do the work. This is the active, and the passive is the work will be done by him. You can see he will do the work in that sentence. He is doing the work. You know that subject is doing the action, and that's why that is the sub. That is basically the active structure. Now we will come to the future continuous. Okay, I will be playing football. So this is the future continuous tense. And why this is the active structure? Because you can see the subject I is basically doing the action by himself. Okay. And how you're going to change this active structure into passive structure? First of all, you have to take the object as subject. Then you have to add will. Again, you have to add be. Now, because you are dealing with continuous, and that's why you have to add being also. Again, you have to change the verb form, okay, as past participle. And finally, you have to put the preposition and you have to change the subject as object. You can see the subject I has been converted into me. So the answer will be football will be being played by me. I will be playing football is basically the future continuous and the active structure, and the passive structure is football will be being played by me. Now we are going to the future perfect. Okay, I have written a sentence and that is she will have done the work. Okay. So she is the subject and the subject is doing the action. So this is active structure and the work is the object. And why this is the future perfect tense? Because you can see will is there. So basically it is from the future, and you are also seeing have as being the auxiliary, and also you are seeing the past participle form of the verb do, and that's why this is future perfect tense. And now how are you going to change this active structure into passive structure? Same thing, same drill. You have to take the object as subject. You can see the work. Again, you have to add will, you have to add have, and because you are dealing with the passive structure of a perfect tense, so you have to also add been. And again, you have to change the verb as past participle. Basically, that verb is itself a past participle, so you have to remember, you have to take that verb as same as the same. And finally, you have to put a prepositions, and you have to change the subject as object. You can see the subject she has been converted as her. So the answer will be the work will have been done by her. Okay. The work is the object of this passive structure, and her is the object of this passive structure. You can see. And will have been done are the verb forms. So she will have done the work is the active structure, and the work will have been done by her is the passive structure. Finally, future perfect continuous. This is the last segment of our today's class. She will have been playing football. Okay, so I've written a sentence, and that is she will have been playing football. Long sentence, but this is active structure. Why? Because you can see the subject is doing all the work, all the verbs by herself. So this is the active structure. And why this is future perfect continuous tense? You can see will. So this confirms as perfect. This confirms as future. You are saying have, so this basically confirms as perfect, and you can see will have been the continuous form, ing form, and that's why the whole sentence is being called as future perfect continuous tense. Now the main thing is how you're going to change this active structure into passive structure. Same drill. You have to take the object as subject. This is the object, so we are taking the object as subject. Football. Now you have to add will. Again, you have to add have. Again, you have to add been. Now, because you are dealing with continuous, so you have to also add been. And finally, you have to change the verb as past participle. You have to put a preposition by, and finally, you have to change the subject as object. Okay. So the subject here will be converted as her. So the answer is football will have been being played by her. Football is the subject of this passive structure. Her is the object of this passive structure. And you can see will have been being played are the verb forms of this passive structure. So I'm coloring it as red. So this is all about the past, active and passive structures of present, past, and future tense. I have told about the four categories: indefinite, continuous, perfect, and perfect continuous. I hope that this video will really help you in your study, in your examinations, and you have to remember that the main difference between active and passive structures is basically the meaning. Okay, if the subject is doing all the works by himself or herself or itself, then that structure will be converted called as active structure. But if that subject is unable to do the action, rather that verb is being done by other one or someone, then that subject will be called as passive structures. So you have to first of all identify whether this is active structure and passive structures, and then according to the grammatical rules or grammatical structures, you have to change your active structures into passive structures. And another important thing that you cannot use by in every sentences. Okay, you have to use the preposition according to the meaning and according to the grammatical need. It can be by, it can be with, it can be to, it can be at. It depends how you are building the sentence, how the grammatical structures is demanding. Okay, so according to the demand and according to the meaning, you have to put the prepositions. So this is all for today. In my next class, I will tell more and more about some other grammatical facts. Till then, goodbye and take care.